Hello there. This is literally take 975 of this topic, and I think it is so hard for me to get on video what I need to say because it's actually something that recently has struck a nerve and triggered me. So I'm going to pre-apologize if this is rough, raw, or discombobulated. And I say this because I'm human, but I think it is so important, and it's something that I see in my own practice, and it's something that I think impacts other people. And so I'm here to share my own experiences, maybe elaborate out on other people's experiences to help you at home. So welcome to Spirt Soul Sunday. Let's get started. The topic. Last week was my birthday. That's not the topic, so I don't know why I leaned in with that. Last week was my birthday, and I'm a birthday lover. So I celebrate the day, the week, the month. I'd celebrate the year if you would let me, but I can't. So I just condense it all to a month. And I look forward to it. But with that being said, I also sometimes will dread my birthday. And I will also sometimes panic or have a little crisis before my birthday. It happens. It's been happening. It happens sometimes. And once I've been able to identify what's got me feeling all discombobulated or feeling a certain type of way, then I'm able to go back and feel better. So let's get to the root of the issue. The root of the issue is my birthday, a new age, turning a new age, doesn't really bother me. I round up, in case you guys don't know, because I think I deserve credit for my 9 months in utero. And so it's not the actual age. However, when it comes to like manifesting or saying I want to accomplish or do certain things in my life, I expect, or I wished, or I had hoped that I would have been able to achieve certain like accomplishments by the time I hit a certain age. And when that doesn't happen, I internally feel like I have failed myself. And I have said this, everybody has a negative neural network, and my personal negative core belief on that neural network is that I'm not good enough. I will talk about that one time and time again because it seems to be the root of a lot of my problems. But anyway, so I will freak out and I will think, gosh, okay, by this year I was supposed to be more successful, skinnier, and we all know I've planned my wedding by now. It's not like I'm even in some type of a rush to get married or to find someone, but it's planned, it's manifested, it's there. And so do all of my other goals. Like I work really hard on manifesting or thinking that things are going to come true, or working hard on establishing things. And so when things are either out of my control and or I haven't accomplished them yet or didn't accomplish them at the capacity that I had hoped or wished for, I don't like that. So, why I wanted to talk to you about this is because there are time and time again, people come to my office and they feel like this sense of like, it's like a melancholy or like this anxiety or this feeling of like dislike or distaste for themselves. And it's because essentially when it comes up to the root of it, they wish that they were a certain place. It's kind of like when I was, but like by the time the client or someone is like, I'm 26, I'd like to be dating someone, and I'd like to be in this type of successful job, and I would like to be getting a promotion, and I saw myself living in this type of a house. And when that doesn't happen, they internally feel as if their self-worth isn't there. And this happens on so many levels, not just on these bigger platforms, but also like littler things like performance things. I know for example, we just talked about sex, and time and time again, I hear about people talking about how like, I waited later, and so I'm afraid to be intimately involved, either dating or sex wise, because I started later, and the expectation of me as a 29-year-old, 25-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, whatever you want to start, isn't there because other people had gotten a head start. So again, it's that person saying like, I don't know if what I have to bring to the table is going to be enough. Or, maybe this looks like in a different way with I am afraid of rolling out something or inventory, starting a new job, going off on a limb because I feel like where I'm at now has not prepared or is not exactly what I've seen in my mind or in my head, and so it's not good enough to produce or create for others to see. So this type of thinking happens because I think a couple of things. One, social context tells us what we should and shouldn't be doing. I live in the Midwest. In the Midwest, a lot more people are married. Most of my friends are married, seriously dating, and or having kids and stuff. Anyway, that's not my life. And it's not to say it can't be my life. It's just not my life at this moment. And that's okay. And however, because of the context of being in the Midwest, sometimes it will do things to you where you're like, is that where I'm supposed to be? But then if you go to a bigger city, Chicago, New York, you'll find that people in my age group are not all married. They're not all seriously dating. They're all doing different things. So I think one context, social context of where you live, and a greater social context of like the expectation of, I don't know, like women or, well, in terms of dating, or like for women in dating, or like bigger context of like expectations in society about what you should be doing with your career, or beauty standards and how your body needs to look and how you need to feel in that body and what kind of food you need to eat and that you need to be doing right this moment. Like, there are different paths to success, and I think that sometimes we're sold an idea that success is through certain and only certain pathways, and whether or not we choose to believe it, it's conscious and then it's subconscious, and then we start to compare our own lives to that standard. So for example, I mean, if you think about marketing, that is their job, is like, if you buy our jeans, one, you'll have this body, and then you see all of these fun people on vacation enjoying themselves with money and being financially free. Our jeans will buy you that feeling and will buy you this idea or concept, and you can have it to and implement in your life. That's how marketing works. So on that, like, conscious and subconscious. And obviously I'm not an all marketing specialist here, so I won't go too much into depth, excuse me, about that. But that's, a framework of what are we picking out in our environment, and that comes from socially, like our bigger culture, our smaller cultures, the people that we live with. What are our family's expectations versus the world around us? Like in your home, were you expected to get good grades? Were you expected to go to a good school and to get that good job? And so then it's like, if that takes you an extra year, or if you want to take a non-traditional path, how does that implement with how you feel about yourself? Maybe it's the exact opposite, and you lived in a home where none of that was expected of you, and so then your expectation of yourself is to take a different path, non-traditional learning, or the best way to put this is, sometimes I will tell a story about how when I used to do therapy, and or I still do it, but way back in the day, I remember being like 20 years old and like doing some work with littles, and the kid was like, "Miss Kani, how many kids do you have?" And I was like, "None." And in my mind, I'm like, "I'm 20. What is it? Do I look like I'm pregnant? Like, what is the deal? Like, why is this child asking me how many kids I have?" And then I said, "Why do you ask?" And they were like, I said, "I don't have any kids." And he was like, "You should have kids. My mom has 6. and his mom was younger. His mom was like maybe like 23, 24, and she had already had like a plethora, not plethora, but like a plethora compared to my 0 kids. And so in his mind, children and child rearing were in the social construct of age. So like I've already surpassed it, and at the age of 20 I should have at least had 3 kids. And so I use that as an example because it's such an like blank statement, easy way of showing you how the world that we live around creates this idea of what our expectations should be. So I think sometimes when we go back to understanding why we're not happy with where we are in our expectations, it comes from what is the world that we have socially been constructed around. The other thing is, I always say this, it's like, I have had challenging things and situations and moments and traumas and triggers and whatever you want to call it in my life, hard times, like, so the darkness, right, our shadow work, and I've had to work through that over the years. And in hindsight, I understand why all of that has happened, but at the time of, it's challenging because who wants to be in literally the trenches of their shadow work? And so I often have to remind myself to take a moment, and when I'm in kind of the work or the grieving stages or the like just the perspective of that I could be in the process of manifesting or creating something so much better. Because in order to like move forward and take on new things, you have to be willing to let go of things that no longer serve you, and you have to be willing to let go of just old versions of your old self and your old ego. And so that work is necessary. And so I think sometimes I have to remind myself, like, am I manifesting or creating something bigger? And I think the other component of all of this is this idea of, most of the time, and when we're not taking this in perspective of like my birthday in context, I am good. I'm so good. So it's like, do I love and appreciate where people are as friends who are different than me, or colleagues who are in different places, or even the youngest in my sibling strip, or I don't know, you could look at it from a plethora of different perspectives. I appreciate the differences in other people's lives, but really I'm happy and I love where I am in my own life. And when I say that, it's this idea of, like, when I look at, my own storyline, and I look at the things that I've accomplished and or the life that I've created, it fits my purpose. It fits my personality, which is a lot, but it works. And so one of the things that I had to come to terms with in order to take a step back on my birthday is this idea of, I was comparing myself to other people, and comparing myself to like what I should have, or also comparing myself to this either unrealistic version of myself that maybe I set too high of a standard for, or maybe it's not my season, or it's not my timing, and that needed to be in perspective. Because how is it that the day before, or not the day before, but like a week before all this, I'm not worried, or I'm not panicking, or in a tiffy about all the things I have not accomplished or the places that I have not gone. And then a week later, it's like, I have failed. I might as well back it up. I'm 31. By the time I was 31, I thought that I, would have all these things done. And what I really realized is it's this idea of like, because I'm reflecting about my age and I'm reflecting about space around me, I came harsh on myself. And I see that time and time and time again, especially in the 20s. People in their 20s do it a lot. People who are heavily on Facebook do it a lot because that's a time of growth. And then being on social media like Facebook, Instagram, it's the area for comparing yourself to other people. So truly, like, consider, like, for example, with social media, did you create an account that brings you joy? It makes you feel good about who you are. I mean, it doesn't necessarily alienate you from diversity or different ideologies or people, but Instagram or Facebook that makes you feel secure in your space. Are you following people whose lifestyles are not yours right now? Not saying that you can't look at them, but when you look at them, do you say, wow, I'm gonna have that one day because it's what I'm manifesting? Or are you looking at that and you're saying, oh God, this house is so pretty, or these clothes are so nice and I don't have that, and then you feel bad about yourself? There's that way of looking at it, but then there's also, like I said, this image of it could also be from people that are in your circle. So what I mean by that are, if I go onto my Instagram and I go to my Facebook, what we're gonna find is this: baby, 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 wedding, 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 and a couple nights out for people, but mainly it's a lot of babies and weddings. And especially around certain times, I'm like, oh, it's heavy baby announcing season, it's heavy wedding announcement season, and I am secure enough to say congratulations or feel good about that. But sometimes people have this emotion, and even if they feel good about someone's engagement or their baby, it's hard because maybe that's not where they are in their life, and so then they compare themselves to people they love. So that person that you love isn't someone you're just gonna unfollow necessarily, because they could be your cousin, they could be your best friend, they could be so many, some people close to you. But having an awareness that, on social media, people show, their best selves or their most cherished selves, and so it's hard if you haven't hit certain milestones like promotions and babies and weddings and just anything, houses, like just whatever it is that you find, traveling, like, oh my God, how are they in another place traveling? To remind yourself not to compare yourself to them. Most of the time, or even with myself, I realized not only was I comparing myself to like my peers, I realized it's not even like what I want in this immediate moment. But there's also this component of I'm comparing myself to other people. But in addition to comparing myself to other people, I'm not realizing how many of these people who I genuinely like enjoy following, or Susie from high school, or random people that I do know, how many of those people would call me to tell me they were pregnant, or how many of those people would call me to tell me that they are engaged, or how often am I in conversation that I would see their kid's first day of school, or I'm gonna see their child lose their first tooth. And I know I'm talking a lot about kids, but I'm using this as an example, and you can like apply it to anything that you feel kind of stuck or torn with that maybe others have that you feel like you don't have, or that you whether like it's like it's something that others have, that you are feeling a disconnect at some capacity within yourself. And so most of the times, or most of the time, people aren't having that kind of conversation or communication with you. So I have to remind myself that, you know, everyone's trips and travels and accomplishments are wonderful, and I love celebrating them, but like it's actually really a really limited circle of people who call me and share their life and their world and their children and their kids and their accomplishments with me. And so I think this is where we see social media failing us in some ways, because in some ways it's an unrealistic perspective of your little world and making you feel like you need to be rushed or someplace or somewhere, because the reality is that no one's hitting you up and saying, like, for example, me right now in this moment, my birthday was perfect. It was so much fun. It was literally like a great weekend. But the word perfect is a stretch, in that it's not, you really can't have, there were like womp womp moments, from like the outfit that I ordered not arriving to, or the fact that I'm always running late, or just in general what I'm making this whole entire video about, the breakdown before my birthday. Most people are not gonna get with you and be that real with you about their birthday. They're just gonna be like, great weekend, thank you so much for celebrating with me, it's been a wonderful year. But the reality is in that wonderful year, I have cried, I have laughed, I have grown, and that's what made it a wonderful year, is because I've been able to grow from the good and the bad. And but I'm not gonna publicly announce the bad. Why would I? That's bad PR for your girl, okay? And I don't even mean that on my business page, because I'm probably more honest on this. Oh God, I just snorted. I'm talking about so embarrassing. I'm talking about on my personal page, okay? Because that's where I can just be, okay? And so I'm not gonna ruin the baddie vibe that I've got going on up there and be like, I had a bad day. No. And if I did, it's gonna be a funny bad day, and that's how I'm gonna tell you about it. And so the reality is to be mindful of that. But timing is so important. Everything happens in divine timing. And I always say you have to remind yourself that you are actually right where you're supposed to be. Because even if you aren't in the best of brightest places, you're learning something from that in order to move you. When I know what I don't want, I know more what I do want. When something feels negative or impacts me negatively, it sometimes pulls me closer to the positive parts, or it makes me realize I don't like this, okay? Sometimes I go into arrangements or friendships, relationships, whatever it is, jobs, and it starts off great, and or you know, maybe like I said, you know, and then you learn along the way, okay, like in your career, like, oh, I like working with this clientele population, I don't like doing that. That is that yin yang that helps you create your purpose, or that helps you move into what you're supposed to do. And then, or maybe it's something like I wanted to keep things casual, and then you're like, oh, I actually am not a person who enjoys keeping things casual. Okay, you learn that from your not so great relationship, or maybe you are in such a tight relationship with someone, and you're like, I need more independence, I need more freedom. So being right where you're supposed to be, and knowing that like the universe is working in this divine synchronous time, and yes, I'm one of those people who believes in that, God's time, whatever you want to call it, if you're religious, sometimes God times, universe time, it all works. And you know, in the statement, like, everything happens for a reason, I do believe in that too. And I don't mean that everything big has to happen for a reason, like, but it, like, it does. Like, it rains for a reason. It rains because that's how the weather cycle is, in precipitation in the cycle, and then the clouds grow and the moisture comes down, and that's the purpose. It rained for a purpose. It rained for a reason. That reason or that purpose might not have been a big one, but it happened. And so I believe that you learn things like from these interactions and mistakes and situations, and you know, sometimes the reason isn't what we want to hear. So sometimes that reason isn't, you know, like sunshine. Like, for example, people are like, what, like death or war or things that are negative. I mean, those aren't feel-good reasons, but they're still reasons, you know, whether it was for power, for gold, or for, you know, medical issues. Those are still reasons. And so we can look to take a lesson or to learn something about ourselves from these reasons and move towards where we're supposed to be. So, or I guess where we're supposed to be going, because you are where you're supposed to be. You have, and I see this in therapy, you personally, you have the power to create change within your life. As a provider, I don't do that. I am just this tool. I'm just here to be your hype girl, which I will do. I will hype you up. I also will check you, because that's just my personality, okay? I will hype you up. I will check you, just because we need the balance of both. But at the end of the day, the person who sits on the other end of where I'm at right now, the couch, is the one who has the power of that change. And so it will happen, and change and all that stuff will occur when it's something that works for you. And like, when I say something that works for you, I mean where you can actually take something from it. I can't force people to change. And so I feel like this video is like kind of all over the place. The moral of the story is that there is no such thing as an expectation of age or profession, or like, I mean, yes, there's expectation of like profession, like you have A, B, C, and D, but what I mean by that is like no expectation of age, no expectation of like us as humans, and that it's constructed from our own beliefs or our own world around us. And so I think the best place, if you want to get to go somewhere that you're not now, or where your work needs to happen, where your strengths are, or your lessons could be learned. But the reality is there are so many different paths, and people have so many beautiful gifts. And if we were all on this perfect path of being at certain places at certain times that were all the exact same, there would be no creativity, diversity, dynamic in our world around us. And so think about that when you find yourself feeling that you aren't on the path of what you should be on, or what other people expect of you. I'm not saying don't keep going and don't keep working on yourself, but what I am saying is that maybe your path is a different path. Maybe you're not meant to fit in to this linear expectation. Maybe your purpose is to create something new. And so really think about that. What is your purpose, and how is it that your path or your purpose could be different from other people? I think that's really what makes us unique. And what gifts did you bring along the way? What insights do you bring? And look at it from that perspective. And if you're feeling stuck, or you're feeling like you didn't hit the bar, one of the biggest things I was like, check yourself, is I was looking at the what didn't happen and not what did happen. So many beautiful things happen in my career, in my relationships. Oh my God, so much growth. I can't even begin to tell you. So much healthy change, negative core beliefs that were dropped, like personal confidence that was gained. And so it's like I am creating this amazing person, and I love that human being. And so it's like, just because I haven't arrived, right, that doesn't mean nothing happened. I accomplished so much greater than that. And so look at your, if you're feeling like maybe you are in a similar boat, look at maybe the steps or the other things that you have accomplished. Look at what you do create instead of looking at it from the negative perspective, because the reality is that I guarantee you everybody has brought something to the table. So I challenge you to join me in this, next year. An exercise that I did was I wrote down all the things that I took my, my categories that I was a little bit, feeling negative about. And then I wrote what were all the positive things that I did to make change in those aspects. And then I set goals that were SMART. So that's specific, measurable, accurate, and timely. I made a SMART goal for the next year, because that's what's going to keep me motivated and moving towards this purpose, right? Or moving towards my goal, or not letting me fold all my cards because something didn't happen. So I made some goals, but I really focused on where was the created change that was made. So I encourage you to do that. Look at yourself and look at where you are now and think about what are the positive things that you did to get here, and then think about where, visualize it. Where are you going? What are you trying to manifest? I know that you all can do it, and if you get stuck, you know that you can always call me. Bye-bye.